Hi everyone, it's Julie, Kansas City girl in a Colorado world, and this is Flosstube number 114. Today is Monday, October 30th. It's the day before Halloween. This will upload overnight and it will be published, hopefully, tomorrow on Halloween Day. I am very proud of myself for actually getting one more Flosstube out this month. I had hoped to get on a more frequent filming schedule, and it looks like so far so good. As you can see, I am settling in to my new crafty room, craft space at our house. Not done yet, but I'm getting my bookshelves together. I'm gonna have a lot of like knickknacks on these shelves. Getting some things hung on the wall. These are reproduction samplers from Hemlock Rye Stitchery, my design company. There are more going down the wall which aren't in frame, but if any of these are catching your eye and you want to look at better pictures or take a look at the charts, I'll link that down below. I have an Etsy and a Gumroad, Hemlock Rye Stitchery. But yeah, we're getting settled in. There is quite a mess in front of me, so we aren't quite there yet, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Arlo's down here saying hello. I'm sitting up pretty high, so I don't think he'll make an appearance this video. So anyway, I have a new design, just a small little like kind of seasonal design I wanted to get out before Halloween. And I finished a bunch of things since my last video. I have fully finished some things since my last video. So I wanted to show, oh, here he is. Okay, hi. So I wanted to show you guys what I've been up to. And then I only have a couple of works in progress because it's only been, I think, 2 weeks since my last video. So I don't have a ton of stitching to show there, but I've got quite a bit with finishes. And then I thought I would go through, because I've been unpacking, so I have all of my like seasonal stuff. So I thought I would go through and show you all previous Halloween, fall, autumn finishes. I have a huge tote here. It's one of my favorite seasons to stitch. It is my favorite thing to stitch. Halloween, spooky, autumnal, definitely my favorite. And I really like stitching Christmas too, so I've got a lot of that too. Maybe we'll do another video in December for that. But anyway, I've got a whole bunch of previous finishes to show you. Like, we'll see. It might take a while. It might take a while, but let me show you what I've been up to since the last video. So this is my new release. This is a Biscornu. It's my first Biscornu. I had so much fun doing this Biscornu. So this is called Midnight Mushrooms. The reason being there are little mushrooms here on the front of the Biscornu. There's a little snail up top of the mushrooms. And then there are moon phases here along the side. So I designed this for Heather, Link is my homeboy, for her lunar swap. So Michelle Bendy Stitchy and I challenged each other. I don't remember who challenged first, but we challenged each other to actually design a small for the swap instead of, you know, just going to find something. And the theme was lovely lunar swap. So we both wanted to design a Biscornu, or one of us mentioned it, and then we both decided we would challenge ourselves to design a Biscornu with a lunar theme. So this is what I came up with. So this is called Midnight Mushrooms. So the lunar theme being the moon phases here on the edges. And then the snails and the mushrooms were just a fun little addition there. And then the back is pretty simple. I think with Biscornus, they're typically displayed like this, and you don't really see the bottom there. So I didn't want to make a ton of stitching back there. And then I also came up with, for these little sides that do end up showing, these are little constellations. And when I designed them, I could have told you, which ones they are, but now I can't remember. I'm pretty sure one's Cassiopeia, one is Ursa Major, but I can't remember exactly what they're based off, but they are real constellations. So the lunar phase was, or the lunar theme was the moon phases and the constellations. This is stitched on a 32 count Lugana from Mystic Fabrics. The color is called Galaxy. It's incredible. When I got this fabric, I knew I had another design in mind, and I still might design something on this fabric, but I just thought it would be perfect for this Biscornu. And it's stitched just with regular DMC. I first stitched the moons with DMC Etoile, and the color was fine. It was just really hard to make the stitches look neat. So I ended up picking those out and just doing like DMC Blanc, I think. Or no, actually, I think this is, it might be like 02 or 03. It's like a pale gray. Mostly white, but there's a hint of gray to it. It doesn't matter. Anyway, this is my DMC palette. I think it's 9 colors, and yeah, I'm so happy with it. I'm so proud of it. Oh, instead of using a button, I use these little gear buttons that I found at Walmart in the button section. And that's my Biscornu. Isn't it the cutest? Maybe this will be my screen grab. I think it's so cute. I'm so happy with it. Designing a Biscornu is really tricky because you've got your design like flat on your screen, and I was happy with it. I thought it looked great, but you can't tell until you actually stitch it and then like assemble it. You can't tell how things are going to like fall and lay. So I actually did one, and then I tweaked. It was pretty good, but like I tweaked a few things. I shifted a few things and moved a few things. So I ended up stitching this 3 times because I had the prototype, which I then tweaked a little bit, and then I stitched it and sent it to my swap partner, and then I stitched this 3rd one for my own model. But it was a quick stitch. I think it took me a day to stitch each side. So it was like a 2-day project. So really fast stitch. Biscornus are so fun. If you have not like tackled one, I highly recommend. They look like they're going to be hard to put together, but they're really not hard to put together. And they look so cool, and they're so fun to do. I used Cheryl at Tiny Modernist. I used her Biscornu tutorial. There are a ton of Biscornu tutorials on YouTube, and I think most of them are probably like perfectly fine. That was just one I stumbled on. I liked it. Was like clear and concise, and I liked it a lot. So that's the one I used, and I'm gonna link it down below if I remember. But that's the one I recommend. But that's not to say there aren't other fabulous tutorials out there. But like, I didn't need a 30-minute tutorial on how to put together a Biscornu. I think Cheryl's was like maybe 9 minutes. It was just like short, sweet, to the point, which is what I needed. But yeah, she had a good one, so I'll link it down below. And I just encourage you, if you haven't done one yet, and it doesn't have to be mine, but check them out. They're really, really fun, and now I want to do more for sure. So anyway, that is Midnight Mushrooms. If you are interested in this pattern, I will link it down below. Like always, if you go to my Gumroad, these type of patterns are free or pay what you like. I will probably list it on Etsy. I can't do it that way on Etsy, so I'm going to have to just put a price on it. So if you prefer to shop on Etsy, you certainly can. But if you go to Gumroad, if you want to throw some money at it, that's great. If you don't, you can pick this up for free. So that was finished a while ago. I just needed to like actually get the Biscornu sewn together. And I just was kind of taking my time on that. So, okay, what else have I finished? So I finished a lot of stuff since my last video. All right, so like a year ago, I was in Salt Lake City, Utah. Just in our travels, we found ourselves passing through, and I went to the craft center, which is a needle workshop. and they do these kits. They do these wood block kits there. And I saw these models at the store, and they had used these Prairie Schooler Boo to You. They had stitched some of these smalls on perforated paper and then attached them to these kits. And they were selling them, and they were very reasonable. I think maybe they were like $8. They weren't bad. So I had to buy the pattern booklet, and then I bought some of the wood block kits. So it comes with the wood block, the finishing paper, the perforated paper, the raffia. Like, all I had to do was the DMC. That's it. So I didn't get around to them last year, but I finally got them stitched this year. And I did, like I said, I did 3 of them. So super fast stitches. I think each of these took me about a day. And then, of course, super easy, fast finishing. I changed some colors just a tiny bit on these. I didn't change the pumpkin head at all. The pumpkin scarecrow, isn't he cute? I didn't change him at all. But I did change the owl just slightly. I think I just changed the word to green instead of orange because I just wanted some, I just wanted to use all the colors so that they would like look more cohesive. And then on the cat, I changed the bow tie color and the word, yow. So I changed those just again so I could use all of the colors. And I don't know, I thought it would look better that way. So I started those, stitched those, and fully finished those since my last video. All of these patterns are really cute. They're all really small. They're 42 high by 32 wide. So they're really quick, like seasonal little small stitches. So then I decided, it's Halloween, I wanted to start, or it's October, it's spooky season. I wanted to start like everything, but I decided I should probably stitch some works and some whips. WIP stands for work in progress. My brain is tripping because Abby Bella Stitch, oh my gosh, she just posted this Instagram story about when people type whips and they put an apostrophe and how that drives her crazy. And so now my brain's like tripping on that. But WIP means work in progress. WIPs without an apostrophe means works in progress, multiple. Anyway, I am trying to finish 40 projects before my next birthday. And it averages out to where I needed, like from when I started, I needed to be finishing like 3 or 4 a month. So I realized I hadn't done like any for this month, and I was like, okay, I need to get it together. So even though I wanted to start all the things, I got out an old WIP. So I got out Lindy Stitch's Autumn Royalty. This was a pattern that came out a couple years ago, and it's just 3 small patterns. They are literally the cutest. I had the tiniest start. I had started the Count of Candy, and all I had was count of stitched. And then I think I had like the crown on the bird. So I had the tiniest start, maybe like a 1-day start. Probably not even a 1 day. It was probably like a 1 hour start. I didn't have much done on it. I got it out and I finished it. So I love this. This is not completely fully finished, but it's mostly fully finished. I need to put like a ribbon here so I can hang it. And then I need to find like a seasonal backing fabric and just kind of glue a fabric on the back here. But I knew when I started this was what I had in mind. I had this German banding from Nikki's Creations. I had gone to a class of hers a couple of years ago, and she had like a merch table, and I bought this there. It's a 28 count German banding that she tea and coffee dyes herself. And I was looking at these patterns and I realized I could just fit 3 on the piece. I did create this little border myself. It's just a little checkerboard border just to kind of break it up because the words were kind of running together otherwise. And I used a couple of the called for colors. It was some DMC and some like fancy floss. I didn't have all of them, so I substituted, but I kept the colors the same. I didn't go wild. It was like, I mean, they're the same colors that she used, if not like the exact floss that she used. Hers is stitched on, picture this plus in shale, which is kind of like that gray purple fabric, and mine's on kind of a warm golden tea dyed fabric. So I think they came out so cute. These stitched up a lot faster than I thought. Like I said, when I started, all I had was count of and then like the crown. That was it. And I thought, you know, this is going to take a little time, but you know, that's fine. But I was surprised. I think this took one day, and one day. Like they were really, now they were days where I was really stitching a lot that day. Like I had a lot of downtime. So this wouldn't be maybe like one evening of stitching, but I was able to stitch one of these a day with heavy stitching days. And I love them. I'm so happy with how they turned out. So that is Autumn Royalty by Lindy Stitches. And then I treated myself to a new start. So earlier in the year, it must have been like probably springtime, I was in Michael's and I saw that they finally had some new cross stitch kits. Now, in my travels on the road over the last year and a half, I have been to many Michael's in many areas, and they are all different. Some have almost no cross stitch, some have a healthy cross stitch selection, and some are kind of just in the middle. Maybe they have some DMC and not much else. So it's really hit or miss. But I was at one Michael's, I do not remember where, and they had revamped their cross stitch section, and they had like some new kits, and they're bringing in, I think, like kind of a store brand. And so they had these kits from a company called Loops and Thread, which is their store brand. And they were Halloween kits, and it was probably April or May, but I went ahead and bought them anyway. They were very reasonably priced, under $10. Well, I went ahead and started and finished, and then fully finished one of the kits. So this is called Happy Halloween. And again, I got this at Michael's, store brand Loops and Thread. And I used their kit supplies. It's an 18 count Aida. It's really stiff. And then this is probably just some DMC. That 18 count Aida, I had to fight it. Like I was fighting it. The holes were really tight, and it was a real struggle to get like in the dense stitching areas, but I persevered, I powered through, I got it done. I finished it in the hoop it came in, which is the simple wooden hoop, but I wrapped the hoop with this silk sari ribbon trim. So this is something that Diana at It Is Kismet turned me on to. It Is Kismet Stitches. She turned me onto this like years ago. Because she does knitting, which I don't, but through her knitting, she found like alternative like fibers to knit with. And one thing that some people do is they take silk sari, well they don't, but they buy silk saris that have been like cut into little strips and then kind of wove together, and then you can use that in your knitting to give like a different texture. But what Diana does is she actually uses it for finishing. So I thought it looked really cool. So I actually finally found some silk sari ribbon at a yarn shop, and I bought a few different colors. So I took it and I just wrapped it around the wood hoop. It was really easy. It gives this kind of like rough finish. I'm trying to get in close. Hopefully that's not blurry. Hopefully that's focusing. But it gives a little bit of a distressed look. But I really, really like it. I think it looks so good. And this color was just perfect for this. And yeah, I was really happy with how that came out. So definitely, if you like the look of this, see if you can track down some recycled silk sari yarn, ribbon. I'm not sure, but I think if you Google it, you'll be able to find it. But you can usually find it at some yarn shops. Maybe not all of them, but some of them. And they come in all different fantastic colors, and they're really fun to finish with. If this is the first time I've wrapped a hoop like this, the other way I've used it is just twisting it like a cording and then gluing it or sewing it down around like a pillow. So, which I have one in my finishes to show you guys, my previous finishes. So when I get there, I'll point that out. Okay, so then what else did I do? Okay, so then I finished one more thing. I finished this last night. So I do a full moon stitch along, like a super informal, casual full moon stitch along with a couple of girlfriends. And all it is like we try to stitch on something with a moon or like a lunar theme, and to just keep us kind of working on those projects periodically, we try to pull them out on the full moon. So I explained this in my last video because this was a work in progress then, but we had totally fallen off the wagon and like none of us had participated in months. And then we finally like regrouped and we were like, all right, let's get back to it. We need a small pattern to kind of like get us back into it because we were all working on really big projects and getting a little bit like bogged down. So we decided to stitch the Primitive Needle by the Light of the Moon. Now this is a free pattern. Well, it originally was released as a free pattern. So if you Google it, you'll find like a scan of it. I don't obviously condone Googling and finding scanned patterns of any designers like typically, but this one was specifically released as a freebie. It says on the pattern, like, you know, feel free to reproduce this pattern. So I don't feel so bad telling you that like you can find this online. But it's called By the Light of the Moon by the Primitive Needle. And so the first full moon that I started this, I got it about halfway done. And then this past full moon, I finished it. So here is my finish of By the Light of the Moon. This is stitched on a 30 count linen from Nikki's Creations. It's, I think it's called why do I think it's called Old England? I'm not sure if that's right. I think it might be called Old England. It's just like a tea and coffee dyed linen that she did. And then I didn't use the called for colors. I just used colors from Stash, but they're in the same like tone. So I didn't change anything. Like using the called for colors would be somewhat close to this. And yeah, it was like a quick couple of days stitch, and I finished it last night. That's really cute. Karen finished, my friend Karen finished hers. My friend Sarah is, I think she's got a good start. I think she's got her tree done, but she hasn't finished it. And then our other friend in the group, Jules, I think she said she was busy with something, so she didn't get to hers yet. But we're 2 for 4. And then Jules says she's going to start hers, and Sarah definitely has a good start on hers. So hopefully we'll all be able to finish this project and have a successful full moon Sal. All right, so those are all the things that I finished from my last video. Let me show you just a couple of whips that I have. So I pulled out, to get back on track with my working towards 40 finishes, I pulled out a whip called Sisters of the Broom by Not Forgotten Farm. This is not a good picture of this pattern, unfortunately, but it's just stitched with 4 colors of DMC, but it's just hard to see that on the cover here. But it's a really cool pattern. It's not a ton of stitching, and so I pulled it out and thought I'd get it finished up, but I actually didn't. I got a ton of progress on it though. But I'm stitching it on 40 count Picture This Plus, and Picture This Plus is very, their fabric shrinks up when they dye it. And that's fine, that happens, but their 40 count, sometimes when it shrinks up, it feels more like a 44 or a 46 count, and it just, you know, it can get really tight. I adore this fabric, but I was just really like fighting it. And so it wasn't impossible. I could do it, I could stitch it, but I just had to take a break. I couldn't push through and finish, but I will. So this is 40 count Picture This Plus Meyer, and I'm using the called for DMC. And I got a ton done because all I had done when I picked it up was I had this one witch done, and then I think I had like most of these letters, but not all of these letters. So I picked it up and I got all the way over to the corner here, and I got quite a bit of progress. So like I said, it's not a ton of stitching overall. If I was stitching this on like a loose 32 count, I probably could have just pushed through and finished it. But I just, you know, I didn't have good lighting yet because I hadn't dug out my Ott light. And it was just hard to stitch this in the evening with subpar lighting on 40 count. And it just, I felt like I was gonna like lose my stitchy bug if I kept going. So I put it in a brief timeout, but I will get back to it and it will be a finish. And then I have one last, nope, sorry, I have two more. But this one, I am almost done. I'm so close. I don't think I'm going to finish it tonight, but I definitely should finish it tomorrow. So this is Things I Know for Certain by my friend Marissa. She's Mkissa Creations on Etsy. This is based on Practical Magic, the movie, not the book, because I don't think this is in the book specifically, but it's definitely in the movie. This is the part where they say, there's like a saying, it's always throw spilled salt over your left shoulder, keep rosemary by your garden gate, plant lavender for luck, and fall in love whenever you can. It's such a cute pattern. It had been a whip for a really long time, and I was like, you know what? It is time. I need to get this done. And I'm so close. So this is it feels like maybe a 30 count. And this was a gift from my friend Diana. It is Kismet Stitches. She dyed this herself. It's so pretty. I don't know if it's going to show up right because it doesn't like to photograph. It's this beautiful green, but sometimes it pulls like kind of gray. So I hope it's showing up right. It's really hard to photograph it sometimes. And then I used random floss from Stash. And I had the words all done, and they've been done for a couple of years. And then I had like just gotten a little start on this witch, and then I kind of just, you know, had put it aside and just couldn't get back to it. These witches are a lot of stitching, but I've gotten so much done on these. Luckily, since I had last worked on this, I've learned how to do the sewing method. I don't do it much. I really don't. I would like to do it for fill-in like this, but it's really dependent on what kind of fabric and floss I'm using. Sometimes I try it and I hate it. My stitches look terrible. The fabric's too tight and I'm fighting it and it's just a mess. But this fabric is nice and loose, and I wasn't having any trouble with my floss gliding through, and the sewing method is working just absolutely phenomenally on this. And it's making these go at least twice as fast. Like once you get into it, like you can really fly with the sewing method. So it's getting me through these witches. I don't dread it. I don't hate it. I'm not like, oh God, I gotta like get out and stitch those witches again, because like nothing against the pattern by any means. But for me, fill-in is boring. It's very boring. And that's true of like any pattern with a lot of fill-in. And so I anticipated that I would really dread filling in these witches, but I don't dread it at all because it's going so smoothly with the sewing method. So, if you don't know what the sewing method is, like I'm probably not the one to explain it, but if you like search it, you'll see. But it's where you're stitching without like a hoop or a Q-snap, and you're literally like holding your fabric and you're taking your needle and you are doing like a sewing motion instead of when I normally stitch, I use a Q-snap or a hoop and I poke and stab, right? So I poke through, I poke it, I reach behind and pull my floss through, and then I stab it back up, grab the needle, pull it through. So that takes a little longer to do, but I'm able to get nice, neat stitches. With the sewing method, you are kind of swooping your needle through, like down one hole and right up through the other, and then pulling it through on the front. You're never really on the back of your piece. So you can really like start flying because you're just going. But it's definitely something I think every stitcher should like give it a try. I think part of why I was struggling with it was because I'm left-handed. But also it's really dependent for me on fabric. I have to have the right fabric. So luckily, past me started this on a nice loose fabric. And that's almost done, and I'm so excited. I can't wait to get that done. I love this piece. And she has another one. She has a second Practical Magic one. And it's Midnight Margaritas. It is the cutest. And I just told myself, like, you can't start that until you finish this one. So I'm finally going to finish this one. I can start Midnight Margaritas, and I can't wait. I can't wait. All right, my last work in progress to show you. This is, oh, I love this one so much, and I hadn't been able to work on it in so long. This is Mirabilia Designs Santa's Magic. This is from 1995. This is an old Mirabilia. It is unfortunately out of print these days. I believe this was number, I want to say it was like the 8th design. No, the 15th. It was her 15th design ever. This is something, I got it as a kit, but it was like an old kit that I bought at a resale shop. And so that's why it's not the way you usually see Mirabilias, where they're in the little envelopes, because it came as a kit. So it came like with this big sheet, and then it came with, you know, fabric, floss, all the things. And so I started this a couple years back, and I decided this would be my snow day project. So anytime it snowed, whatever, like even if it was just like spitting a little snow, not really sticking, but just anytime it snowed, I would get out my snow day project. Even if we weren't getting called off of work or school for an actual snow day, I was still going to work on it. And so I got a lot of progress on this guy. And then we went on the road, and while we were traveling in our camper, we were actively avoiding extremely cold weather or snow. Like, we didn't want to be snowed on in our camper. So I didn't see any snow for like 18 months. But now we're back in Colorado. If you missed that in my last video, hi, we're back in Colorado. And so we got snow. We got snow the other day. Saturday, right? Yeah, we got snow on Saturday and like a titch on Sunday. So I worked on this Saturday and Sunday, and I got some good progress. So this is Santa's Magic. Like I said, it came as a kit, so everything came with the Krynic and the beads. I don't have the beads on yet, but it came with the beads too. The only change I've made is skin tone. I did give Santa a darker skin tone. I do that very often with my Mirabilias. I just think, why not? It's fun for me, and I think we need more diversity and representation. I'm not getting on a soapbox here. I'm just saying, personally, I don't want a whole bunch of Mirabilias on my wall and they like all kind of look the same in that way, like where they're all just like a really pale white lady. Santa being an exception, of course. But for me, I like to just change it up. So I give my Mirabilias like varying skin tones and hair colors. And watching the question and answer with Nora Corbett from the Queen City Stitch Retreat that just happened a few weeks ago, someone asked Nora, I think Maggie asked Nora how she felt about people changing her patterns, like changing the colors, doing conversions. And she said she loved it. She said, go for it. I think it's fabulous. So there you go. So anyway, all that to say, I gave Santa a different skin tone, and I'm likely to do that. There's a few that I might just do as charted, but usually I'm going to change it. But yeah, there's Santa. Doesn't he look so good? So what I got done this time was I got up into this hat and finished it off. I had some bare areas here in the white, in the gold, and I didn't have any of this purple done. So I got in there and got that all done. So now he is done up here, other than beads, and I'm ready to move back down here. He's big. He's big. He's really big. And he's really heavy on the confetti. Her earlier designs, you know, are definitely, I think, more confetti heavy. I think that's something like, just as her style changed a little bit, she's changed some of that, but he is a lot of confetti. However, I think it's really fun, and I've really enjoyed it. Like, I don't mind. It's just, I think, you know, you hear people talk about comfort stitching, and that can mean something different to everybody. Like, for some people, stitching on a heaven and earth designs, like full coverage, is comfort stitching. And for some people, stitching like on a Blackbird Designs project is comfort stitching. So it can mean different things to different people. I don't know why, but for me, I think Mirabilias are my comfort stitching. I just really enjoy stitching on them, whether I'm in a confetti section, whether I'm stitching like big blocks of color. I don't know what it is. I love stitching on them. I really like, they're one of the few things that I'm not just like stitching for the finish. I'm just like enjoying the process. So I'm really enjoying stitching on Santa. All that to say. And it had been way too long since I last stitched on him. So I was really happy to get him back out. Okay. So that's all the stuff I worked on since my last video. I finished a few things though. These were things that I had shown previously in videos as finishes, but I fully finished them. So here are the few things I fully finished since last video. So this was a Barbara Anna small from Punch Needle and Primitive Stitcher magazine. It was from the fall 2022 issue. I can't remember. I want to say it might have been called Witchy Dreams, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I think I used the called for colors. It's been a while, so I can't quite remember. I think I might have used the called for colors. I might have changed one or two just to make them show up better, or if I didn't have them. And this was I believe this is a Bestitch Me fabric. I think it's called Gunmetal, and it's a 32 count. And I finished this in a little hoop and glued some ribbon around it. And then I had stitched my own pendulum board from Bendy Stitchy Designs. So this was so I actually have two of these, and that's fine. I'm not mad about it. So this is the one Ellen had made for me, and she stitched this one with like the called for floss. It came in a Starlight Stitchery box, and this was Forbidden Fiber Company floss that came with it. And then I don't know what the fabric was. It looks like just a simple neutral. I stitched it and I changed up the colors, and there was no rhyme or reason. I just chose different colors. And this is stitched on a 14 count Aida that I got at Michael's. It might be hard to see on the screen, but it's a green to blue, like a really subtle green to blue modeling. Not at every Michael's, but at several of them I found this Aida. They have three colors. There's this green, blue, there's like a purple pink, and then there's like an orangey reddish one. They're very subtle, like sherbety colors. The modeling's subtle, and they're 14 count Aida, but they're like really pretty and they're really fun to stitch on. And it's the only time I've seen kind of that modeled fabric at like a big chain store like that. So check your Michael's and see if you can find it. It's really nice fabric. And it's very affordable. But anyway, that's what I used for this one. So I finally got this fully finished in a hoop and glued some ribbon around it. And then I had finished another pattern for my friend Marissa in Kiss of Creations. She released, like a month or two ago, she released a Dracula pattern for the spooky season. So this is called Dracula's Welcome. And there were two versions of the pattern. I can't remember. I think one of them maybe had added at the top, like, welcome friends. And then it said enter freely and of your own will. I can't remember exactly, but she had two versions in the same pattern, slightly different. So, this one though, I actually changed just a little bit. So I was stitching it from like the top down, and the only thing I left off is this border up here repeats below the castle. And I had planned to stitch it that way. However, I got the castle done and I was looking at it and I was like, you know, that's square. And maybe that'll be easier to like find a frame. So I was like, you know, maybe I'll just stop now because then I can easily find a square frame. Whereas if I stitch that bottom border, I didn't know if it was going to be a standard size frame, and I didn't want to have to like hunt down a frame. So that's the only reason. The border wasn't hard to stitch and it's not a ton of stitching, but I just realized if I didn't stitch it, I would have a square finish. So I did find a square frame and I got that finished. This is stitched on a 32 count linen from Nicholas Flamel. It's called, it was a set of 3 fabrics sold together as a set. and it was called the Bronte Sisters. So I don't know which Bronte sister this one is because they weren't individually labeled, but it is one of the Bronte sisters. All 3 fabrics were beautiful in that collection. But that's Dracula's Welcome by M. Kissa Creations. So that was a simple, easy finish. And then my last fully finish from since last time I saw you all is Rolodex Morning Sampler by Bendy Stitchy Designs. This is one of my favorite pieces I've stitched, and I found this frame at an antique store, and it was very reasonable. I think it was like $4 or something like that. And I just bought it with nothing in mind. I just liked it, so I bought it. And then I was looking at it and I thought, I wonder if this would fit in there, because I didn't think this would fit in an 8x10 frame, but it does. So it's not it's like not perfect. Like there's a little bit more margin at the top and bottom than on the sides, but it really doesn't bother me. I think it's like close enough. But this is Rolodex Morning Sampler stitched on 40 count Picture This Plus Meyer, which is that same fabric that I used for Sisters of the Broom that I showed earlier. And I did change some of the colors, but only just so they would show up better. Like I had most of the called for colors, but they didn't all show up right on my fabric, particularly the Weeping Willow. The color that was called for, like just did not, you couldn't see it. So I had to switch it to like a different shade of a light green. But otherwise I kept in like the same like palette that Michelle designed with. I didn't, drastically change anything. But, oh, I did change one thing. I think her moon and stars were like a navy kind of color, and I made mine, I used DMC Étoile, so it's a sparkly white. But I love this. I love everything. I love this pattern. I love the inspiration behind the pattern, Carla Rolodex Stitches. I love Michelle. I love the fabric. I love the frame. I just love it. It's so good. I love this. All right, those are all my finishes and the fully finishes. Guess what? I don't have any haul. I don't. I haven't bought anything. I meant to buy, and I will buy, the new Modern Folk Embroidery 2024 Stitch Along. Jacob just dropped that a couple days ago, and I think you can already like buy it, even though it's like the Stitch Along for 2024. I think you can already like get the whole pattern. He usually will like release it a little bit early. I mean, he'll give you like all the details so you can get your fabric and floss together, and then he'll usually release it like a couple days early. But I think he said he released the whole pattern. Regardless, I didn't buy it yet, but I'm going to. I honestly just forgot. I mean, I freaked out over it, and then I meant to go buy it later, and I didn't. It doesn't matter. I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to do it. I will be doing it. I need to start dreaming about my fabric and floss combinations. I think I know what I want to do with the floss, but I need to like kind of get the floss box out and really settle on it, and then figure out what fabric is going to look the best with it. All right. So no haul. All that to say, no haul. All right, I'm going to show you some older finishes, previous finishes of Halloween, spooky, fall, that kind of vibe. And then at the very end, if you want to stick around, I do have a little bit of book talk at the end, not a ton, but just like a few. So that'll be after I show all these. Now, some of these I'm not going to know, like, I'm not going to remember. I'm sorry. I'm not going to remember what fabric I used or what it's called. I'm sorry. So this is That Which Does Not Kill Us. This was a black work stitch along from Urban Stitches, and this is stitched on an 18 count Fiber on a Whim Ada, but I can't think right now what it was called. I want to say it might have been called Hazelwood, but I'm not 100% sure about that. I didn't use the called for colors. They were somewhat these colors, but I just pulled from stash and kind of changed the palette a little bit. I hated every stitch. I think it's beautiful. It's fantastic. I love the design. I love the way it looks. I don't like black work, and which is basically back stitching. It's not for me. So I really, I don't mean to sound like bad on the designer, because an incredible design, and she has done some other designs that I just love, and I look at them and I want to stitch them so bad, but I know I won't enjoy it because I hated doing this. I hated it. It's too fiddly for me. It's not for me. Just give me the X's. I just want the cross stitch. But it looks amazing. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I pushed through. I'm glad I finished it. But I don't think I'll ever do one again. This is Hocus Pocus by Hello from Liz Matthews. This is such a fun seasonal stitch if you want. Like, it's so quick because it's not much. There's not much to it. But you frame it, you pick a cool fabric and you frame it on this big, you know, it's got like an impact, but it's like minimal stitching. This is, I think it's a 36 count from Picture This Plus. I can't remember what the color is called. And I used a DMC, there's like a little fuzzy on there. This is a DMC Color Variations. It's like a gray to brown to blackish color. That was a really quick stitch. This is from Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. Oh, these take me back. These were like, you know, the first year or two, I think, that I was really into stitching. So this is Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. It says, I love fall most of all. And I finished it on this cute little easel from Michaels. I can't remember anything about it. Like if I used the called for floss or if I changed it. I don't remember what the fabric was. I stitched this years ago, like probably four years ago. This one's also Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. This is Pumpkin Spice and Everything Nice. So cute. I don't remember where I got this frame. And I glued some doodads. I still think this is so cute. I do love putting this out every fall. Pumpkin Spice and Everything Nice. So cute. I'm going to go through these a little fast because I do have a huge box here. This is my own design. This is Hemlock Rye Stitchery. This is Samhain in Salem. This is, these are 3 houses. These are based on like historical homes in Salem, Massachusetts. I have a whole series. So I did each season. So this was my fall, Halloween, Samhain in Salem. And these are the 3, you know, the 3 historical houses. And then I created this border for it. There's an alternate charting available that says Halloween in Salem. But yeah, that pattern's available with a link below if anybody's interested. I'm just grabbing stuff at random. This is Good Morning Maui. I think it's just called Hocus Pocus. This is a 28 count Monaco that I dyed myself. And this is the Sanderson sisters from Hocus Pocus. And I did change the quote. I can't remember what it said originally, but I changed it to, oh, look, another glorious morning makes me sick. This is, this was, I think it was called the Philanthropic Pumpkin. And it was a collaboration between Kathy Haberman at Hands On Design and Lois at Lady Dot Creates. And they sold these kits for charity and you can't get them any longer. And I'm so sorry because it is so cute. And I know people want this, but I don't know if they'll ever release it like on its own. I don't know. And I've passed on my pattern to a friend. And this was a gift from my friend Victor Flosstube. He is the best. He is so generous with me and sends me such lovely gifts. And he bought this this kit for me and him. And so we both have completed it and it's so cute. So it came with like, I think all you had to provide was the DMC. But it came with all the finishing and the instructions. And in these little pumpkin pins, they're the cutest. There's some fluff on that. My stem got a little squished in storage, but it'll be all right. This I did last Halloween season. This is a little Mill Hill. It's a really little one. I just glued a magnet on the back, but I almost think I want to put like a little ribbon on it. I can't remember what it was called, but it was like a recent Mill Hill release. Ooh, so When we went to get Arlo in Salt Lake City, we went to Shepherd's Bush, and I got several of their kits. Their kits are so fun. They're just so, they have everything you need, and they just come out so cute. So I got this one. I think this one is called Autumn's Fright. So it comes with like the fabric, the silks, the buttons, the ribbon, the beads. Like, I don't think it came with backing fabric, but it came with everything else. So this was one of their kits, Autumn's Fright. And then this one, I don't remember what this one was called. I can't remember. But again, it came with everything. Like the beautiful silk ribbon, the floss, the buttons. They're quick stitches. They're really fun to stitch. And they're just, I love Shepherd's Bush. They're so talented. They have their look, you know, like you can look, you know, that's a Shepherd's Bush when you see it. This is a Barbara Anna, I believe. I think it's just called Hocus Pocus. And I have been meaning for years to sew some trim on this, and I just keep forgetting to get around to it. Maybe I'll do that this year. So that next year when I take this out, I will go, oh look, I did finally get trim on that. I don't think I used the called for colors on this. I think I used just random floss from Stash. I can't remember what the fabric was either. It almost looks like it could have been like a Lakeside 40 count. It's very cute though. This was from Pine Needles in Utah. So when we were in Salt Lake City, we went to Shepherd's Bush, which isn't in Salt Lake City. It's like north, but it's close. I think it's 30 minutes away or something. And then we went to Pine Needles, which is a quilt and stitching shop, and they do their own little kits. And this was one of the kits I got there. It's a little like postage stamp stitching, and then it comes with the pillow. Like the pillow's already sewn. Like this was all sewn, and you just do the stitching and then you tuck it in. So I can't remember what it was called, but it was just one of their little pillow kits. Ooh. This is another Bendy Stitchy. This is a Hildy. I can't remember what the name of it is. It's Hildy. I can't remember what this pattern's called, but you could find it if you go to her shop and just search for Hildy. And I can't remember if I did like called for, I know the border wouldn't have been called for colors because I think she used a Threadworks and I didn't have it. But the rest of it, I can't remember. I don't remember what that fabric is either. But there's Hildy. I love Hildy. I've stitched several Hildies, but I have a couple of Hildies. I think I have 3 still that I have like kitted up and I need to do, and I just like keep forgetting to get to them. So I need to get more Hildies done. Oh, this is Moonsick by the Primitive Needle. So this was what started our full moon stitch along with my group of girlfriends. We started with Moonsick, and most of us did finish this one. It's actually a pretty quick stitch. I changed all the colors. I can't even remember what the called for colors were, but I changed them up. And I think this is a 40 count Picture This Plus fabric in the color Velt, I think. That is Moonsick, and I love that one so much. This is a Witchy Stitcher pattern. I think it's called Witchcraft. I made this into a flat fold. And this is a Picture This Plus 28 count crystal linen. I think it's called Flapper. I think it's a discontinued color. And I think I might have changed a couple colors on this, but I don't know for sure. I might have changed like just so they showed up better on the fabric. I really like that one. This is from Stitching Book Club. This is the Frankenstein pattern that she did a stitch along for. And this is Picture This Plus Murky. I think it's a 40 count. And I did the inside is I think all called for, but I changed the outside. I think it had I don't remember what it said. I don't remember, but I didn't want to use that quote. So I like did some recharting, and mine is a quote there is something at work in my soul which I do not understand. So I did just tweak that a little bit. And I think I changed the colors just to whatever. I don't remember what they were, but I think they were limited edition Gentle Arts from a Stitchy box. And I finished this as a flat hanging ornament kind of style. I'm really happy with how it turned out. This is another Mkissa Creations pattern. Marissa at Mkissa Creations, she does really fun like little seasonal stitches. So if you're looking for like a quick seasonal stitch, like go check her shop out, because she has some that you can like get stitched up quick. So this is Witch Shoes. So this is Witch Shoes. And I used, I think, just like random DMC. And then I found this at Michael's a couple years back. And so I just made this like a little hanging wall thing. Oh, this is from Park Hop. I always trip on his name every time I trip on this. Park Hopper Bart. I don't know why that always like trips me up. This was maybe 2 years ago. He released a Halloween pattern. And so this says, I will honor Halloween in my heart and try to keep it all the year. So it's a play on A Christmas Carol, but he made it Halloween instead of Christmas. And I did not do like the called for floss. This was a fabric that Diana, my friend Diana, had gifted me. And then I just like picked random floss from stash. And I think that's the only thing. It's like, it's his pattern. I just changed the floss colors up. And then I finished it in this little tray that I had laying around forever. All right. Woo! Okay, there's not too many more. So this was a set of smalls from the Primitive Hair. And I stitched these on, I don't know what this fabric is, but it's so pretty. I think I dyed it myself. It's so pretty. This is like my dream fabric. I wish I could recreate that. I stitched these with DMC Etoile, so they've got just like a hint of sparkle. And then I finished them in these little tins. So I think it was just a set of like 4 smalls on the original pattern. This is Alforce Embroidery Father Mushroom. I've also finished Baba Yaga, but I don't have her framed yet. I actually do have, so I'm just showing you all of my fully finished seasonals. I've actually got several that aren't fully finished yet, unfortunately. Maybe those will be finished for next year. This is a kit, so it's the kit fabric and floss. So cute. This is Lizzie Borden by the Primitive Hair. And this is stitched on, I don't know. Oh, I think I dyed this fabric myself. I used to be really good at dyeing fabric. I don't think I could do that again. I'm not like, I don't know how I did that. That looks so good. I mean, I kind of remember, but anyway, I dyed this fabric myself, and then it's stitched with DMC. And this was like a Christmas thing at Target Dollar Days, but it works for this. Hey, buddy. I'm almost done. I'm almost done. This is, I don't remember the designer. It was an old pattern, and it was like 3 little pouches on the front. And one was this witch, and one was like Christmassy. I can't remember what it was called, but I finished it on this little wood board. I don't remember what I stitched her on, what I stitched her with. Like, I got nothing. This is Wild Violet Cross Stitch. I can't remember the name of this pattern. It was in, I think it was in a Punch Needle Primitive Stitcher magazine. And I got the little rings from Abby at Top Knot Stitcher. And then I finished it with this little pocket, like the way I think the original was done. I changed up the colors just like a little bit, but just so that they would show up on my fabric, not because there was anything wrong with them. And then when I was talking about that silk sari ribbon earlier, this is what I mean. I twisted it and then sewed it down on this pillow. So that's what it looks like when you use it like that way. I love that. That's so cute. I don't remember what that fabric was. I think it was a Fiberlicious. This is Nikki's Creations. I think it might be called Autumn Scissors. She has every season. It's these scissors, and then there's like a lady, and then a few fun motifs. And I think I've done summer and autumn. I think she has the spring too, and I think a Christmas one. I haven't gotten them all done yet. But I think I used the called for DMC on that. I don't remember the fabric. We're almost done, I swear. Here is another witchy stitcher. Now I do remember I changed up a lot on this because she had like 3 colorways, and one was teals and one was pinks, and I couldn't pick between the two, so I combined the two, and I did teal and pink on mine. And then this is another one where I used that silk sari ribbon and I twisted it and then affixed it along the edge. It's so pretty. I love it. I really like doing finishing with that. I think I think Diana dyed that fabric. It's really pretty. She has some really pretty ones. This is another Wild Violet cross stitch. I don't remember the name of the pattern, but it's the Witch House in Salem. Actually, that might be, the name of the pattern might be Witch House in Salem. And I didn't use the called for. I think they weren't showing up right on my fabric that I picked. So I tweaked it a little bit. This is a 25 count Lugana from Under the Sea Fabrics. And so I did it 1/1. So mine's like teeny tiny. This is another witchy stitcher. This is Death Before Decaf, and this was a box. She did like a coffee themed box. It was the best box. It was so good. It came with fabric and floss and a pattern booklet, and this is one of the patterns in the booklet with the called for floss, which is color and cotton floss, and it came with like Bones coffee. It was so good. It was such a good box. I loved that box. And it came with a mug. It was great. Anyway, that's Death Before Decaf. Okay, we're getting down to the very end. All right, this is a Mill Hill, I think it's called Bewitching Pumpkin. A little Mill Hill kit. And then this one is another Mill Hill kit. I think it's called Come Stitch. It says Come Stitch for a Spell. This is my own design. This is Hemlock Rye Stitchery. This is called Luna. So it's a skeleton hand and then this Luna moth. There's a couple of little metallics in there just to give it, not a lot. It's just, I think it's just, it's just back stitching. There's a little bit of metallic back stitching. This is stitched on like a 32 count Lugana in like a charcoal color. I love this pattern. I have plans that I've just never sat down and done, but I have plans for like related patterns, like with more like skeleton kind of stuff. I just never gotten around to it. I have all these ideas in my head and then they don't ever get out. All right, last one. This is the Witchy Stitcher. This is one of her Ouija boards. I think this one's just like called Ouija board. I think this is like the OG, but she's done others since. And this was a 28 count Monaco that I dyed myself. I love how it came out. And then it's just DMC Blanc and DMC 310. And then it also included a little planchette pattern too. So I did a little soft finish for that. I love this one so much. I love it. There's other ones. She has one that says like Hail Satan. She came out with the Lisa Frank version. She has one I think that says Happy Halloween. I want to do all of them. I just haven't done it yet. I love that. Okay, so that's all of my stitching. I'm going to talk about, Arlo's like, are you done talking to yourself yet? Like, please, can you be done yet? Hey, I'm almost done. I'm almost done. He needs attention. All right, a couple books and then I'm out of here. Okay, so I've got like 6 or 7 books to talk about. So I reread The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. I had never gotten around to reading the second book, or the follow-up book to this, The Atlas Paradox. And I'm finally ready to read it. And I was like, I should really reread this because I remembered quite a bit of it, but like it was just so complex. And I was like, I need to reread this. So this is a story about 6 people in this world. Some people have like magical, I guess what we would call magical powers. Like some people can manipulate matter. Someone can read minds. Somebody can influence emotions. Just different like kind of niche talents that people can have. And in this, 6 people are recruited to join a society, and the society is tasked with like protecting and maintaining the Library of Alexandria, which turns out has not been lost. It's been hidden and preserved. So they kind of join like they're kind of like interns. Like they're going to learn and be tested for like a year, and then they find out that only 5 of them are going to actually be able to like join. So this novel is about, who and how do they determine which 5 of the 6 will be joining the society. And it's mostly just like a character study. One thing Olivia Blake does really, really well is she just writes such like detailed, fleshed out characters. It's just absolutely fascinating. A lot of the people in this book like aren't really good or likable people, but they're still very fascinating. And so I can't really get into like a lot without, being spoilery, but I really loved it the first time I read it, and I really still loved it on reread. I actually did audio for the reread, and that was great too, because each chapter is told from a different perspective of one of the 6. And so they had different narrators for each one. So it was a really good audiobook because you got like a little bit more distinction because you had the voices were different. And I thought it was really well done, and I can't wait to read the second one. Hopefully I'll be doing that soon, but yes, highly recommend. This was, when I read this a couple years ago, it was like one of my favorite books of the year. I absolutely love this book. So then I read Heartless by Elsie Silver. So this is another author who I found on Kindle Unlimited. She has a whole, her first book was called Flawless in this series. The second one is Heartless. I think there's 4 or 5 of them out. They are on Kindle Unlimited, but I enjoyed them so much that I did buy the paperbacks of these. Well, I only have the first 2 so far, but I plan to keep getting them. But yeah, this is such a fun series. So it features, it's set in Canada, and it's in, I think it might be like Calgary. It's like, the Wild West of Canada. So these are cowboys, ranchers, but they're not like American Southern cowboy style, right? So these are like Canadian cowboys. The first book features like a rodeo star. And then this book is his brother. So his brother Cade is running like the family ranch, and he's really overworked, and he's a single dad, and he needs a nanny. So the female lead from the first book asked her friend to come and help him out for the summer and come be his nanny. And then they fall in love, of course. But yeah, these books are so cute. They're super easy to read. They've got like appropriately steamy, spicy scenes. Like they're not like super, super, super smutty, but like you get some smut. And they're funny, and I don't know, I've only read the 2, but I've really, really enjoyed them. They're like, I flew through this. And this one is Grumpy Sunshine. Like he's super grumpy and she's super sunshine. So it was just I loved it. It was really good. I really, really enjoyed it. Then I decided to get into like the spooky season. So I read Mr. and Mrs. Witch by Gwenda Bond. And this is based on Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you know, the Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt movie. So it's kind of like inspired by that, except for she's a witch and he's like a witch hunter. But it's really interesting because they meet and they fall in love, and they're both keeping that identity secret from each other. So like she thinks he's just a professor, he thinks she's just like a PR person, and neither knows the other is involved in like the secret society basically. And so they fall in love, they decide to get married, and then like their cover is blown. They find out they're mortal enemies, and they're both tasked by their governing like bodies with taking the other out. So that's kind of like the setup of the story. And then of course they realize that maybe they've been misled, that they do still have feelings for each other, all the things. It was super cute. I really did enjoy it. It wasn't like, you know, my favorite ever. I'm probably gonna forget all about it in like a month. But it was a fun read. It was definitely like a worthwhile read. It was very funny. It had some really good, like pretty steamy moments, and the witch stuff was fun. So I really enjoyed it. So then I read A Shadow in the Ember by Jennifer L. Armentrout. So this is a spin-off series from her popular Blood and Ash series. So I've read like the first 3 books of the From Blood and Ash series. And then these are kind of like prequels. So these are centered around characters from, I don't know, it might have been like 1,000 years before the events of From Blood and Ash. And so it was a series, it's a series I've been enjoying, but like I need to get caught up. I think I'm like 3 or 4 books back now. And I decided to pick it back up. So this is, like I said, it's a spin-off series. So this is a whole different like set of characters, but you're in the same world. And a lot of things are very familiar. And so you're learning about like vampires and the maiden and like all these things that occurred in From Blood and Ash. But you're just hearing it from a different way. It's kind of like an origin story of how we got to the events in From Blood and Ash. So I've enjoyed all of the books I've read so far. And I do understand some people do not like this writer or this series. And I do understand like the criticism. She can be a little bit repetitive. She can be a little wordy sometimes. And like, I don't know, just some people like really will bash like From Blood and Ash, and they're just like, who likes this? This is so terrible. But then other people like absolutely love it. I'm more like in the middle. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it enough to keep reading, but I'm not like, you know, obsessed with it. But I'll keep reading. I'll keep reading them. They're fun enough for me. So you get like, you know, gods and vampires and magic and like kind of chosen ones, and there's like smut too. So I think they're fun. I think they're good. All right. I've got 2 more books to talk about. So I read What the Hex by Jessica Clare. This was the second book in this series, but you don't have to have read the first one. I don't think. I can't remember. Anyway, this is just like contemporary romance, but with a witchy spin on it. I had read the first one, and I actually like thought it was, I mean, it wasn't like the best thing I ever read, but it was really fun. I had a good time, and I was like, yeah, I'll read the next one. So they're fun. They're like these witchy, silly, like kind of fluffy, romance novels. And, this one was no different. But this one I did really enjoy. It's like the warlock, the male character is, super, super grumpy. And then his, apprentice Penny is like super sunshine and silly. So I like that dynamic. I like Grumpy Sunshine. I'm down with it. So, yeah, this one again, like, didn't change my life. Wasn't the best thing I ever read, but it was really fun. I had a good time. It didn't take long to read. If you're looking for like a cute witchy romance and you come across this one, like, I think it's worth checking out. The last book I have to talk about is another reread. I reread A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. This is my 4th time reading this, I think. This is one of my all-time favorite series. So it's the All Souls trilogy. And oh, it's so good. This is so good. Witches and Vampires and Demons. It is amazing. I love this series. I cannot recommend it enough. It is just so beautifully written, really well researched. Like, just, I love it. I love it. So it's about a witch named Diana, and she falls in love with a vampire named Matthew. But in this, it's like our world, but these creatures are kept secret. They're aware of each other, but like the general public is not aware. Arlo, come on, buddy. I'm almost done. He's so ready to like go play. So anyway, in this world, creatures are forbidden from like interspecies dating. Like, witches keep to themselves, vampires keep to themselves, demons keep to themselves. They cannot, they can be like, sometimes they can be a little bit like friendly, but like they don't mix. They don't generally mix. And so they meet and they have this chemistry, this connection, and it turns out like, you know, they are forbidden to be together. And so it's about them fighting like the congregation who is telling them they cannot be together. But you know, it goes deeper than that. There's intrigue, there's mystery, there's a lot going on. The reason I reread this is because it is set over like a 40-day period. So it begins around Mabon and it ends on Samhain. So there is, you know, I originally read it just because I wanted to read it and I loved it. And then I found out there is a real-time read where they tell you each day like what chapters to read to where you can keep pace with the book. So you start, you know, like in September and you read, you know, it's like today you're going to read chapter 1 and 2. And then like sometimes you have a few days where you don't read anything and then you got to read another chapter. And it all kind of like, it follows the actual timeline of Diana and Matthew like meeting and falling in love. And then it ends on November 1st. Now today is October 30th and I finished this book this morning because I just couldn't wait. I only had 2 chapters left because I had read like today's chapter and then there was 1 chapter tomorrow and then 1 chapter on November 1st. And I didn't want to wait any longer. So I just finished it. I just went ahead and finished it. So I did jump ahead a titch in the reread. But it's a really fun way to reread this book because it's like super, like you can take your time. It's very low stakes. However, now that I've reread it, I must go on and reread the 2nd and 3rd book. Now, those do not have like a real-time reread. Those are set across different like timelines. And so those I will just read like when I feel like it. But I think I'm going to jump in and reread the 2nd book like pretty soon. And then I'll probably jump right into the 3rd book. I love this trilogy. It's so good. So if you haven't read this yet, highly recommend. All right, that's it. That's all the books. That's all the book talk. Arlo needs some love and attention. I've neglected him for a whole hour while I've talked to you guys and just not given him any attention. So, all right, I'm going to go. I will see you guys next time. Thanks.